The joke slipped out of him on a tired afternoon, the kind of joke people make when their hearts are heavier than their smiles. A single dad running on coffee and responsibility laughed and said, "I'll marry you," as if it were nothing more than a harmless line tossed into the air. He didn't know that sometimes words land exactly where a broken heart is waiting. By the time the sun dipped lower and the day began to soften, his life was already turning toward something he never planned for. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and love showing up when you least expect it, take a moment to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Midnight Tales. Your support keeps stories like this alive. Ethan Hale had learned to live in daylight. Mornings were for packing lunches, tying shoelaces, and reminding himself that grief didn't get to steal joy from his daughter, Nora. Afternoons were work, quiet concentration, and the soft ache of remembering a life that once included someone else. Nights were the hardest, so he avoided thinking too far ahead. He told himself that love was something he'd already lived through, something finished. Raising Nora well was enough. It had to be. Clara Winslow entered his days almost by accident. She volunteered at the community center where Ethan sometimes brought Nora after school, a place filled with noise, sunlight, and children who refused to let sadness linger. Clara had a calm way about her, like someone who had learned how to survive storms without making them everyone else's problem. She laughed easily, helped where she could, and never asked questions that felt too sharp. Over time, small moments stitched them together. Shared glances during school plays, quick smiles in passing, a mutual understanding of what it meant to keep going when life didn't go as planned. The joke came during one of those moments. A casual comment, a smile meant to lighten the air. Ethan said it because it felt safe to say something impossible. Clara smiled back, but something in her eyes stayed with him longer than he expected. Still, he went home, made dinner, helped with homework, and tucked Nora into bed, unaware that the day wasn't finished with him yet. The text arrived while sunlight still lingered on the walls, turning everything gold. It was simple and unexpected. "Pick me up. I'm in the dress." Ethan stared at the screen, his heart pounding like it had forgotten how to behave. Panic and hope wrestled inside him. He thought of all the reasons it couldn't be real, his responsibilities, his fears, the promise he'd made to himself not to want more. But beneath all that was a quiet truth he could no longer ignore. He didn't want to say no. That afternoon stretched into something fragile and electric. Ethan drove with shaking hands, memories flashing through his mind. His late wife's smile, the vows he once believed would last forever, the guilt of feeling alive again. He worried about Nora, about doing something wrong, about letting happiness in, only to lose it. Yet when he saw Clara waiting in the soft daylight, dressed simply but beautifully, something inside him settled. She wasn't asking him to forget his past. She was standing there as if she understood it. The challenges didn't disappear just because hope had arrived. Ethan carried years of responsibility alone, and letting someone close felt like learning to breathe differently. Clara carried her own quiet wounds, moments where she'd chosen strength over bitterness. Together they moved carefully, like people stepping onto thin ice, listening for cracks. But the more time they spent together, the more daylight seemed to expand around them. Laughter came easier. Silence felt comfortable. The future no longer looked like something to endure, but something to build. Nora noticed first. Children always do. She noticed how Ethan smiled more, how his shoulders relaxed, how mornings felt lighter. She noticed Clara's patience, her warmth, the way she treated their small family, not as something temporary, but as something worth caring for. For Ethan, that was the moment everything changed. Love wasn't just about him anymore. It was about choosing courage for the people who depended on him. As days passed, Ethan realized that the joke he'd made wasn't careless after all. It was a glimpse of a truth he hadn't been ready to face. Life hadn't ended when he lost the love he once knew. It had paused, waited, and then offered him something different, something honest and steady, rooted in shared understanding rather than promises made too quickly. Near the end of this story, if it's touching your heart even a little, please like the video, leave a comment, and share it with someone who believes in love finding its way back. Your engagement truly means everything to Midnight Tales. That day in the open light, Ethan understood that love doesn't always arrive with fireworks or certainty. Sometimes it comes as a joke you don't mean, a text you don't expect, and a choice you're afraid to make. But when you choose it anyway, when you allow yourself to be seen and to hope again, it can change not just your life, but the lives of everyone you love. Before we reach the ending, a special request. Please comment what this story made you feel. Your words might be exactly what someone else needs to read today. By the time the sun dipped and shadows grew long, Ethan knew one thing for sure. He was still a single dad, still imperfect, still learning, but he was no longer alone in his journey. And sometimes that's all it takes for a heart to believe in tomorrow again.